Chương trình này được bảo trợ bởi
Family Joy, tổ ấm y tế của mọi gia đình, 714 898 0765.
Hi, welcome to the OC Health and Education Show on Little Saigon TV. I'm your host, Julie Yip. To us, OC stands for community because we believe that a community thrives when we come together. That's why we thank you for joining us each Tuesday evening on channel 56.10 and on Wednesday morning on Little Saigon TV. This is a bilingual English and Vietnamese program dedicated to educating, empowering, and inspiring our community. Today on our show, we have Raphe Margolin of the Margolin family, who's done so much in the city of Garden Grove and throughout Orange County. Today, he is coming to us as a seniors real estate specialist from Seven Gables to talk about some of the benefits of understanding and accessing these programs. Julie Yip kính chào quý vị khán giả của Little Saigon TV trong chương trình Kiến thức y khoa gia đình và xã hội. Chương trình Kiến thức y khoa gia đình và xã hội là chương trình song ngữ, đã là chương trình OC Health and Education. Julie cảm ơn quý vị khán giả đã theo dõi chương trình mỗi thứ ba lúc 7 giờ trên đài 56.10 trên đường sóng của Little Saigon TV. Chương trình đây hy vọng giúp cho quý vị khán giả của Little Saigon TV và nói về thông tin rất là quan trọng cho quý vị. Hôm nay, Julie mời được Raphe Margolin. Raphe Margolin là một người trong gia đình của Margolin family, làm rất nhiều việc trong cộng đồng của mình, đặc biệt trong thành phố Garden Grove và trong vườn cam của mình. Hôm nay, Raphe Margolin là một người seniors real estate specialist of Seven Gables. Đó là một người địa ốc mà đặc biệt giúp cho người cao niên, không phải là người cao niên không, mà để cho mình hiểu về cái quyền lợi của real estate về địa ốc. Raphe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you to Little Saigon Television for having me here.
Well, thank you so much for coming here today. You know, today is a great opportunity, first of all, to shine light onto the Margolin family, because I was so blessed to meet your sister and to do so many things in the community. Can you tell me a little bit about your family before we go straight to you?
Okay. Yes, my family has been involved in volunteerism ever since pretty much I can remember, from volunteering with the Special Olympics in Gardena, as well as when we were working within the community of Garden Grove. Pretty much I've always said, if you put out a list of all the organizations in Garden Grove and pointed to one blindly, you would find one that my parents were involved in.
Yes.
And also my sister. So main ones that we were active with were the Strawberry Festival, as well as the Miss Garden Grove pageant, which her family ran for over 30 years.
That's amazing.
And my sister took what my parents were running and making a wonderful show about the young women and expanded it into basically a major production. That the moment that we crowned the queen one year, the next day my sister would be working on the production for the next year.
Wow. You know, I feel so blessed to know your sister. I know that, you know, when I talked to you privately, you said, oh, I'm the last Margolin. And, you know, it means so much for me to have you today, because it's a time for us to celebrate you and your ability to carry that light for your family. So thank you to your sister and your whole family for all that you've done in the city of Garden Grove and throughout Orange County. Julie cảm ơn quý vị. Hôm nay Julie có thời gian nói chuyện với Raphe Margolin. Raphe Margolin là một người trong gia đình của Margolin family, làm rất nhiều việc trong thành phố Garden Grove. Raphe chia sẻ với mình là gia đình của Raphe là volunteer rất là nhiều trong hội trong Garden Grove, thành phố Garden Grove, về non-profit, về Special Olympics, vân vân, rất nhiều lắm. Raphe nói đó là mẹ của Raphe với gia đình của Raphe làm cái là đặc biệt là giúp cho Strawberry Festival, với cũng là giúp cho cái pageant là cái thi hoa hậu trong thành phố Garden Grove, đã là Miss Garden Grove. Julie thấy là hôm nay là một thời gian rất là quan trọng cho mình, thấy đó là mình có thời gian celebrate với Raphe cái công việc của gia đình, với cái việc của Raphe tới đây. Raphe, you know, I know that your family has done so much, and you're able to continue to share so much of your family's legacy in our community. But I know now that you have this new transition in your life. Can you tell me a little bit about your educational transition?
Yes, pretty much through most of my life, I enjoyed being around and working with seniors. And because of that, I decided at one point, wait a second, USC, which my wife also happens to be an employee of, has an excellent program in gerontology, which is the study of aging. And it's not just the study of old people per se, as people call it. No, it's the study of the aging process, which of course starts from the moment we're conceived and / born to when we pass. So I decided that I would get involved in going to USC in gerontology. And at the same time, I decided to get involved in a program that I created called Aging Artistically, which is based on the concept of working with seniors on different creative programs where we taught improvisational comedy with seniors as well as doing sing-alongs with them.
Well, that's great, Raphe. I really like that transition and that your passion with gerontology. Thưa quý vị khán giả, hôm nay Raphe chia sẻ với mình là Raphe học về gerontology ở trường USC. Gerontology là nhiều người nghĩ đó là học về về người cao niên, mà thiệt ra không phải là về học về người cao niên không, mà the life transition là lúc mà mình mới sanh ra tới lúc mà mình là người lớn tuổi hơn lúc mà mình qua đời. Đó là cái transition gì. So gerontology là một cái đặc biệt của Raphe. So Raphe có cái bằng master ở trường học của USC. So that's clear, right? You have a master's degree in gerontology.
It's called a Master of Science in Gerontology. Yes.
Okay. Well, I know that you're now marrying your love of gerontology and now into real estate. So how did you kind of bring that together?
Well, I found that what I enjoy doing is very interesting and all, but of course there is the fact that you also have to make a living in it.
Yes.
And it is a challenge to get paid from the government or individuals for the improv that I do. And that's something I want to continue doing as COVID eases and I can continue volunteering. But in regards to helping people and making a living at the same time, decided that I would merge the two ideas and work with people that need to either take their current homes and downsize, or in some cases upsize.
Okay.
Because people need to sometimes say, okay, our children moved out, we don't need this 5-bedroom house, and they want to sell their home. Or on the other hand, they may have a smaller home and they're going to have grandchildren staying with them, and so they want to upsize their home.
Thank you. Well, I think that's a great idea because, many of us, we have such a hard time, doing our our passion project, like in your case, aging artistically with your nonprofit. We might love doing that, but we also have to pay bills, as we all know.
Right.
And I think that's a great transition for you because, you have this great specialty in gerontology, which is the transition of life, again, not just for seniors, but also to see, as your life changes and the living arrangement changes, you are a great specialist to provide those information. But thank you again, Ray, for sharing your background and also being available to us today so we can ask more information and learn more about how we can help our families, not just our parents, but as the life transition happens. Thưa quý vị khán giả của Little Saigon TV, hôm nay Julie có một thời gian rất đặc biệt hỏi về cái câu hỏi về gerontology. Raphe nói đó là Raphe hiện tại là một người sáng lập ra cái chương trình là Aging Artistically. Đó là một cái chương trình tạo ra nhiều chương trình cho giúp cho mỗi người cao niên cho có cái vui vẻ về nói về improvisation với nhảy chung thì cũng là rất là đặc biệt, mà cái đó là mình làm đó không có đủ nhiều tiền để cho giúp cho người cao niên. Thì Raphe nói đó là Raphe nhảy qua địa ốc về real estate, thì cái đây đó là cái đặc biệt của Raphe là giúp cho người cao niên, mà Raphe luôn luôn có rất nhiều cái background để giúp thêm. Sau phần quảng cáo, Julie sẽ tiếp tục nói chuyện với Raphe Margolin ở Seven Gables. Cảm ơn quý vị khán giả của Little Saigon TV.
Chương trình này được bảo trợ bởi
Family Joy, tổ ấm y tế của mọi gia đình, 714 898 0765.
Hi, welcome back to the OC Health and Education Show on Little Saigon TV. I'm your host, Julie Yip. Julie Yip cảm ơn quý vị khán giả của Little Saigon TV. Hôm nay Julie có thời gian nói chuyện với Raphe Margolin để tiếp tục nói về cái chương trình của the Seniors Real Estate Specialist. Hôm nay, today we were able to talk about, your background, to talk more about the involvement of your family and how you're continuing to celebrate your family's legacy. I love how you transitioned before the show that you went from, to your nonprofit, which is aging artistically, and marrying the needs and your specialty of gerontology and going into real estate. I think what you are truly a person who has that foundation to help our seniors and our families as they transition through life. I know that when we talk about you being the last Margolin, you always say that there's lots of things that you had to deal with. How when you lost your sister when she was young, and your parent. And I think for me, I want to know what you know now and what you went through with your family. How do you think that can benefit you in the process of your family's transitions?
Well, what I learned is basically to have everything written down.
Oh.
And I don't know if you want to show the audience right now.
Sure.
But there's a program that I don't benefit financially from this.
Okay.
I just think it's really great. And there's, I'm sure, other programs similar online that you can access. It's called 5 Wishes. And I have actually a copy that I brought here that's in English, and there's also one in Vietnamese.
Wow.
And what it does, it allows you to detail specifically, one, who you want to be your health agent. So say you're incapacitated, you never know. Suddenly you get in a car accident and you're unable to speak to what wishes you have in regards to your health.
Correct.
And so then it specifies who will decide for you. But also, in addition, it has details on there what you want done for you.
Okay.
Because there's things like, there's a simple concept of what's called a full code, where if you were to stop breathing and all, they would do everything to bring you back.
Correct.
And then there's a thing called the DNR, do not resuscitate, but they'll do nothing to bring you back. They'll just make you at ease. But there's a lot of things that can be in between that will assist you. Whereas, deciding, okay, if there's a decision that what will help me isn't going to do anything to prolong my life, then I don't want it. But if it's going to help me, the doctors feel that there's a chance that will help me, then I want this. And then it also specifies other things in there too. What kind of music that you want played by your bedside? What music do you want at your funeral? Because unfortunately, we're all going to end up there one day. So it goes through a lot of details about your later periods of life. And it doesn't have to be your end stages, because of course this is saying what I want if I end up in the hospital. Do I want a feeding tube? Do I want ventilation? All of these things. And maybe those things that you're given will help you sustain your life and then be healthy and live for 20 additional years.
I think what you're reminding all of us is that the importance of planning ahead and putting everything in writing. Because many of us, we think we're young, that we'll never, we'll live forever, and that planning is only for, our parents or when you're older. Unfortunately, we lost Stacey very early. Did she have anything in writing, and was that different with the experience with losing your parents?
My parents thankfully had everything detailed in writing.
Okay.
I used to joke with my mom, to have her funeral paid for, so I didn't have to at the last minute try and figure it out.
Yeah.
Because they took care of themselves financially.
They're planners.
But, it's still hard to maybe come up with the money for a funeral at the last minute.
Correct.
So it's better to have it paid for. Stacey didn't have things written down ahead of time, except for like in the last 7 weeks when she was in the hospital, 7-8 weeks. We got some of the information when she was able to be clear enough to communicate her needs and have my mom oversee things and my mom know what she wanted, but still it wasn't as specific as we would have wanted. You know, we had family in a room and friends that were all in a room debating whether or not she would want to know that she, at this point that we were there, that she was going to likely
it kind of take away a lot of the guesswork.
Right.
Okay.
Definitely. You can say, do you want to know whether or not, you know, you're not going to survive?
Okay.
And then that way people know. It also, to me, the biggest thing about this is, because it takes away the guesswork, is that you ease things for your survivors, meaning especially the children.
So basically, it's a gift to your family, to making that loss process, because losing a family member is always hard, you know. But I think when we plan ahead and we put our wishes known, it eases that transition process. Well, thank you, Ray, for sharing that, and thank you so much for being so open about your personal experience, because, you know, I love the fact that you're here today to share about your personal story, and knowing that you have lived experience when you're helping and holding the hands of our families within the community. Thưa quý vị khán giả, hôm nay Julie có thời gian nói chuyện với Raphe Margolin. Raphe Margolin hôm nay chia sẻ với mình đó là Raphe là một người senior real estate specialist, đó là một người giúp cho không phải là đặc biệt cho người cao niên không, mà rất nhiều cao niên cần cái sự giúp đỡ của Raphe về real estate, về địa ốc, là tại mình phải sắp xếp trước khi mình lớn tuổi hay mình mất. Raphe nói đó là một cái chương trình nó kêu bằng 5 wishes. The 5 wishes đó là một cái chương trình không phải là của Raphe, mà một cái non-profit. Raphe chia sẻ với mình đó là rất là quan trọng, mình phải viết xuống cái muốn của mình, về cái wishes của mình, để cho gia đình của mình không có cái khó khăn lúc mà mình qua đời. Trước nhất không phải là mình phải chờ cho mình lớn tuổi mình mới phải viết xuống, mà mình phải sắp xếp để cho in emergency. Thì hôm nay Julie có thời gian nói chuyện với Raphe Margolin. Raphe Margolin có chia sẻ với cái khó khăn của gia đình, là Julie cũng có một cái câu hỏi đặc biệt, gặp được Stacy Margolin, đó là em của Raphe. Stacy qua đời lúc mà 49 tuổi thôi, rất là trẻ, mà không có sắp xếp trước, là tại mình nghĩ là mình trẻ, mình không có cần plan ahead, mà Raphe là một cái người specialist giúp cho về lifespan. Mình sắp xếp ra chừng nào mình cần thì mình có được có cái ease về trong gia đình, thì cũng không có nhiều cái khó khăn. Raphe, I thank you for so much for sharing this experiences with your personal journey, but also to now bridge and bring together all the love that you do for gerontology throughout the life transition, and to helping people as they make important financial decisions as it relates to real estate. Now, can you tell me a little bit about the organization that you're affiliated within, the brokerage within your for real estate work?
Well, I'm with Seven Gables Real Estate, which is an excellent organization. We have many offices around Orange County.
Okay.
I'm located out of Huntington Harbor, which is part of Huntington Beach.
Okay.
And as a seniors real estate specialist, I have the awareness of needs for people at different age groups. And especially what's important is if you're age 55 or older, and you've owned your home for a good amount of time.
Okay.
Because that way you now can move up to 3 times and keep your same property tax assessment for the amount that you move for. Say you buy your home is worth $700,000, so you sell it for $700,000, and then you buy a new home. It happens to be also $700,000.
Okay.
Well, your property tax will be the same. You can move anywhere in the state of California. It's something you want to verify all of this information with an accountant. I'm not an accountant, but you want to verify that information. But in regards to...
But what is that threefold that you mentioned? Like
what
the
it
3
means
times?
Is that the law prior to 2020, it had an allowance where you can move within to 10 different counties, and you had to do this only once. But now you're allowed to move 3 times and keep your same assessment.
Okay.
But also what's new is that it used to be that you had to buy a home that was the same price or less.
Okay.
Now you can buy a home that is more, but you would just keep the value for the amount that you had sold your home for. So if you decided to buy a home that was $1 million home,
Yes.
and your other home that you just sold was $700,000, you keep the assessment for that $700,000, but the $300,000 would be the higher assessment for that new place you moved to. So it just gives you a lot more flexibility, and it's very important to know. And plus, you have 2 years to identify a new home. So you can save, sell the home, have the cash in the bank, look around, and then find your new home.
Okay, so after the commercial break, we're definitely going to talk more about the details of the transition. Thưa quý vị khán giả, hôm nay Julie có thời gian nói chuyện với Raphe Margolin. Sau phần quảng cáo, chúng tôi sẽ tiếp tục nói thêm về cái chương trình của Seniors Real Estate Specialist.
Chương trình này được bảo trợ bởi
Family Joy, tổ ấm y tế của mọi gia đình. 714 898 0765.
Hi, welcome back to the OC Health and Education Show on Little Saigon TV. I'm your host, Julie Yip. To continue the conversation with Raphe Margolin, we're talking about the Seniors Real Estate Specialist and to learn a lot more. Earlier, before the commercial break, you were able to share with us a law that was passed that allows seniors to take their tax assessment with them and be able to move 3 times. I know you had so much information, and I'm going to try my best to recap for the audience so they know, a little bit more about your specialty and the reason why you're here today. Thưa quý vị khán giả, hôm nay Julie có thời gian nói chuyện với Raphe Margolin. Trước khi phần quảng cáo, Raphe Margolin nói chia sẻ với mình một cái luật rất là quan trọng. Cái Proposition 19 là Proposition 19 là trong năm 2020 có một cái chương trình rất là đặc biệt, một cái luật đó là nói là chừng nào cái người cao niên 55 tuổi hơn á, chừng nào mình dọn á, mình có thời gian dọn up to 3 lần. And then lúc mà mình dọn đó, cái giá trị về cái nhà của mình á là mình được giữ cái thuế mình trả cho cái property đó, cho cái đất đó. Chừng nào mình mua nhà mắc hơn thì mình chỉ phải trả thuế cao hơn cho cái phần sau đó thì vân cái ví dụ đó là chừng nào cái nhà mình bán 700.000, chừng nào mình mua cái nhà 1 triệu đi thì cái thuế 700 á, là mình giữ cái thuế cũ của mình, mà cái 300 sau đó là cái thuế mới, là cái thuế cao hơn. Thì đó là một phần nữa, đó là Proposition 19. Trong cái đây là một cái luật nó effective là ngày tháng 2 năm 2021, thì mới năm trước hôm nay thôi. Raphe, thank you so much for sharing that proposition because sometimes seniors are afraid to make some transitions,
right.
And they're like, well, I can't afford to buy a new house because I can't afford to pay the increased property tax. But you're telling us today that might not be the case. And 55 is not too old, right?
No.
I think a lot of us, as we approach our 50s, we're like, oh, so I'll be considered kind of a senior in the real estate world when we get to 55. But thank you so much for being here to remind us that a seniors real estate specialist is not a person that works with only our elders or senior citizen, but for all of us. I'm in my mid-40s, and I'm going to hit 55 soon. But I think that's a really important time because, if I think about selling my house, maybe I might want to wait a little longer so I can maintain or carry on that tax assessment. So I think that's very important guidance for us. Now, can you tell me a little bit more about what your work at the Seven Gables brokerage?
Yes, basically, like I said, my focus is on being a seniors real estate specialist. But of course, somebody comes to me and wants to sell their home, I'm not going to say you're too young. So that's my emphasis.
Okay.
But also because I'm from Garden Grove, I love Garden Grove, and I think it's a great area, and there's a lot of excellent homes here. That's also what we would call my farm per se, where where I look to help people buy and sell homes. I live on the east side now. I grew up on the west side of Garden Grove. Went to Pacifica High School. Go Mariners! But I'll help anybody from any of the high schools, and so it's an emphasis on assisting people and educating them.
Okay.
I want to make sure people are informed about what they need to do, and in that regard, also I always emphasize if somebody's buying a home, that they make sure to get pre-approved for a loan. Because you need to know how much you can afford on a home. You don't want to go to a home and figure out, oh, I can't afford this, and you could afford it. And in the same vein, you don't want to go look at a home and think, oh, I love this home, but I can't afford it.
Correct.
And so you want to know what you can do.
And I think because you have a master's degree from USC in gerontology, you really understand, even the income transition. Because, as we're young, we have a regular, we work, we get a paycheck. But as you get older, your income transition, whether it goes into retirement accounts or disability accounts or anything like that. So I think that's very important that you mentioned that, we really need to assess your income sources also, in addition to what you can qualify for. Thưa quý vị khán giả, hôm nay Raphe Margolin chia sẻ với mình một cái chương trình rất là đặc biệt. Một lần nữa đó là cái assessment của cái real estate property về cái thuế đất của mình. Mà đặc biệt thêm nữa đó là Raphe nói là trong cái công việc của Raphe trong Seven Gables là cái văn phòng ở địa ốc á, là throughout Orange County, trong quận Cam của mình có rất nhiều văn phòng. Raphe hiện tại làm cho văn phòng của Huntington Beach, mà tại Raphe ở thành phố Garden Grove, hồi xưa là ở bên West Side, bây giờ chuyển qua East Side, and học trường Pacifica, đồ tại mấy cái trường đó. Mà cái love, cái passion của Raphe là giúp cho người mua đất với transition trong thành phố Garden Grove. Thì chừng nào quý vị cần liên lạc Raphe Margolin một lần nữa, số điện thoại của Raphe là 657-377-5636. Một lần nữa đó là 657-377-5636. Email của Raphe Margolin là raphem@7gables.com. Một lần nữa, raphem@7gables.com. Cảm ơn quý vị khán giả đã theo dõi chương trình Kiến thức y khoa gia đình và xã hội. I share with them your contact information, Raphe, because as we talk about these programs, I think our audience is now understanding the importance of whether they should and when they should go to a seniors real estate specialist. Because again, as you mentioned, it's not only for seniors, but because you have a extended foundation and education and knowledge, that when a senior citizen does come to you, you will be able to have a different background and assess their situation more to make sure it's more tailor-made for them. Is that correct?
Yes, and also understanding your needs too when you're younger. A lot of people don't think about the fact that, well, yes, this is my final home that they want to live in. So it's called, there's a term that's used which is called aging in place, where people, instead of moving into a assisted living facility or other facilities for older adults that they prefer to stay in their home. And in order to do that, for a lot of people that want that, the best thing is to buy a single-story home. And also you want to look at how large are the bathrooms, because what if
you might need to make some adjustments.
Right, you may need to use a wheelchair at some point. So you want to be able to go through there, and how easy it is to adjust for, outlets and other needs. And so it's just something to consider prior to buying a home, whether it's in your 30s, 40s, 50s.
Wow. And I think, a lot of times, we don't think about it. Most of the time, we're so reactive. Like my father, he just had a stroke. And we have to move furniture and, make sure these areas are clear for him to, bring his walker into the restroom. So I think that's really important. And so one more time, you said that term is called aging in place.
Yes.
To making sure that if you think this is your final home, and to look at different accommodations, whether it being even a wider doorway and a bigger restroom, being able to move a wheelchair. Because, the truth is, if you don't want to go to a assisted living facility or senior home, then you do want to think about, can this house accommodate? Because, right now when we're young, we might be able to go up and down the stairs in a 2-story home. But as we get older, that's going to be hard. For me, I'm in my 40s, but I have joint issues, right? And sometimes I have to swim instead of doing a normal exercise because it's easier on my joints. So thank you so much for shedding light on the needs of seniors and the option and how we plan if we want to age in place. Thank you so much, Raphe, for that information. Thưa quý vị khán giả, hôm nay Julie có một thời gian đặc biệt nói chuyện với Raphe Margolin. Raphe nói một cái term rất là quan trọng hôm nay, đó là aging in place. Nhiều lúc mình lớn tuổi, mình nghĩ đó là ok, cái nhà đây hiện tại mình ở cái nhà rất là lớn, 5 phòng, 3-4 cầu tiêu, gia đình mình, con mình đi học đại học hết rồi, bây giờ chỉ có hai vợ chồng ở xong, thì cái đó là mình có thể là mình phải downgrade chút, là mình phải mua cái nhà một lầu, có thể là mình phải tìm cái nhà mà nào phù hợp cho mình, chừng nào mình cần phải xài cái xe lăn hay cái walker. Sau phần quảng cáo, Julie hy vọng có thời gian nói thêm về cái chương trình của Seniors Real Estate Specialist của Raphe Margolin at Seven Gable. Cảm ơn quý vị khán giả của Little Saigon TV.
Chương trình này được bảo trợ bởi
Family Joy, tổ ấm y tế của mọi gia đình, 714 898 0765.
Hi, welcome back to the OC Health and Education Show on Little Saigon TV. I'm your host, Julie Yip. We're at the last segment of our show, but I'm so happy to have Raphe Margolin on the show for him to continue his legacy of the Margolin family of service to the community and to this great new transition to helping seniors, but not just seniors, but all of those with different transition in life with our real estate needs. Thưa quý vị khán giả, hôm nay Julie có thời gian nói chuyện với Raphe Margolin. Hôm nay Raphe Margolin có thời gian để tiếp tục về cái công việc trong cộng đồng Việt Nam, trong cộng đồng của mình, về cái legacy của gia đình của Margolin. Mà hôm nay Raphe muốn chia sẻ với mình cái công việc của Raphe về là the Seniors Real Estate Specialist. Hôm nay Raphe có thời gian nói về rất nhiều cái thông tin rất là quan trọng về cho mình hiểu về Proposition 19, đó là cho mình vẫn giữ cái thuế đất của mình, chừng nào mình được dọn nhà 3 lần mà cũng vẫn được giữ cái đó. Thêm nữa, một cái chương trình kêu bằng aging in place. And cái chương trình aging in place á, là mình chừng nào mình lớn tuổi mình phải còn chuyển nhà, mình phải chọn cái nhà nào để cho mình vẫn tiếp tục ở. Chừng nào mình lớn tuổi mình phải còn xe lăn hay mình phải xài cái walker, phải có cái cầu tiêu lớn. Với chừng nào mình lớn tuổi mình nghĩ ra mình không được ở cái nhà 2 lầu thì mình phải chuyển xuống, mình phải mua cái nhà nhỏ lại mà vẫn được cái cuộc đời rất là đặc biệt với có ý nghĩa. Raphe, if someone wants to get a hold of you, how do they do that? Can you share with our information once more?
Yes, thank you, Julie. My name is again Raphe Margolin, and you can reach me at Raphe M, which is RAPHEM at 7gables.com, or at 657-377-5636. And that's my personal email address as well as my cell phone number. And you can reach me, and I'm very thankful again to Julie and Little Saigon Television for having me here.
Well, what you've been offering to our community today is such a great service because, there's so many people in real estate and there's so many people who buys and sell property. But I think it's so important that, when it's a certain part in a transition in our life, we have to have someone who truly understands, where we're at. And, for you to have an additional bonus of having a specialty and formal education with a master's degree in gerontology, because I don't always see people, work in gerontology and then go into real estate, you know. So, because, that's a very novel combination, but I think a much needed combination. Can you tell me about what kind of value you think it brings to our senior community as there are going to be more seniors in the next 5, 10 years or 20 years down the road?
Well, I think it's very important to me. What I want to bring to you, the community, and bring to everybody whether they be a senior or they're approaching the age,
yes,
is knowledge. Because I would hate to hear from somebody like a friend or just somebody that I met at the age of 53 or 54 that says to me, "Oh, I just sold my home and moved," and then I found out about Prop 19.
I know.
So that they lost that prop value, the assessment value of their home. They got reassessed, which is what it's called. And suddenly, instead of paying something that they were paying on their home from 30 years back, taxes, say it was like $3,000, $2,000 a year, now it got reassessed and they're paying like $6,000 when they could have waited 2 years.
2 more years.
Then, they didn't get the knowledge, or that they move into a home and it just doesn't have all their needs. There's homes I've looked at and I'm like, this home doesn't seem right for somebody that's older. I looked at a home recently. Unfortunately, a lady passed that I knew. She was in her 80s, and the home had lots of steps.
Wow.
Lots and lots of steps. And I was like...
And those are hazards.
Yeah, those are hazards. And other things you need to be aware of when you're aging in place, too, that you don't think of. Steps are a definite hazard. Yes. But rugs can be a hazard if you're having trouble.
Like it's certain types of rugs, too, with their higher raised and such, too.
Right. So it's being aware of everything, in the home that you need to know about before you move in, and the financial effects of your decision making.
Well, Raphe, you brought up so many things that, I didn't really think about that being an important thing to look at, as if we needed to help our families transition to these homes. But again, thank you again for sharing this information. I'm definitely going to try my best to recap this. Hôm nay Julie nói chuyện với Raphe Margolin. Raphe Margolin nói đó là cái mục đích mà Raphe muốn tới đây là bringing information. Và cho quý vị khán giả của Little Saigon TV được cái information để cho mình làm mình mua đất để cho nó lợi cho mình. Raphe nói đó là một cái gì mà Raphe sợ đó là chừng nào mình 53 tuổi mình muốn bán nhà, chừng nào mình bán nhà hôm nay, ví dụ là cái thuế đất của mình là 2.000, mà chừng nào mình không có chờ tới 2 năm sau là tới 55 tuổi thôi mình bán, mình được giữ cái thuế đất đó là the assessment của cái thuế đất. Thì chừng nào hôm nay một cái gì mà quý vị nhớ đó là chừng nào quý vị gần 55 tuổi đừng có bán nhà liền, chừng nào mình chờ tới 55 tuổi đó mình có rất cái nhiều quyền lợi về cái Proposition 19, mình được giữ cái assessment của cái thuế đất của mình. Thêm nữa Raphe nói đó là lúc mà Raphe giúp mấy người cao niên mua nhà, Raphe phải coi cái nhà đấy có phù hợp cho cái người lớn tuổi không. Một cái ví dụ là chừng nào mình mua cái nhà mình thấy đó là có nhiều cái bước. Tại Julie làm trong ngành y mình biết đó là mấy cái fall đó, mọi người mà lớn tuổi đó mình té cái xương của mình nó không có nó không liền lại liền, thì cái đó là một cái step trong cái nhà đó, là mấy cái bước á, là cũng là một cái nguy hiểm cho người cao niên. Với thêm nữa Raphe nhấn mạnh đó là cái thảm, chừng nào mình mua nhà mình đâu có chú ý về cái thảm, mà thiệt ra cái thảm nó làm cho cái safety về cái an toàn cho cái người cao niên nữa. So again, Raphe, I'm trying my best to make sure I recap this because just to recap that the main purpose that you're here is not just to help seniors, but for us to understand that the importance of the life transition. As I approach 50, and if I'm thinking about selling my house, this actually makes me pause a little bit. Do I want to sell now? And, there's so many things for us to think about. And then if it is my final home, is this going to be where I'm going to age in place? So I think there's so many words I learned today, Raphe. So I want to thank you one more time and your family for being such a light in especially the Garden Grove community, but also throughout community with all your volunteerism. I want to thank you for being a friend, because I think today you've given so much that will impact my family transition, because I'm in at my 40, I'm that midlife crisis. My kids joke about putting me in a senior home, but I think if I'm not going to stay in a senior home, I should consider is a home that I'm living in is a house that I want to age in place, or do I need to make that transition and come to a specialist like you? Once again, thank you for being here to educate our community and especially protecting our seniors. Is there anything you would like to say to our viewers today?
No, I just would like to again emphasize 5 wishes, whether it's English, Vietnamese, or if you need another language. It's just, and like I said, there's other programs also available. The idea, just have that information in writing. The worst thing I think is having your children at the hospital. One is authorized to make a decision or knows that the eldest and they were the one making decisions, and the others think that they're pulling mom off life support early. And one of them said, no, that's what mom wanted. You want to be able to say, here, it's in writing, this is what mom wanted, and we're making the decision for her based on her desires. And that just makes everything much easier. And if you're the one that's writing that, you're giving them a major gift.
Okay. Now, how do they get a hold of this book here?
They can go to the website, which is 5wishes.org, I believe they can order like a family package, and it's like something like $10.
So something very insignificant.
Very insignificant. They get like 5 copies of this or something to that effect, as well as some other materials.
Do we have to get it notarized? I mean, what's the legality on this?
No, there's only like 4 states where it needs to be notarized.
Okay.
In the state of California, as long as you have 2 witnesses, it doesn't need to be notarized.
Okay.
You just what you need to do is have 2 witnesses that are not beneficiaries.
Got it.
Meaning that they're not benefiting financially.
Okay.
As you know, they could be family members, but they just have to be individuals that are not financially benefiting from the person that's passing.
Okay. Well, once again, Raphe, thank you so much for your wealth of knowledge, for your extended knowledge about gerontology, the transition of life. Thưa quý vị khán giả, hôm nay Julie có thời gian nói chuyện với Raphe Margolin rất là đặc biệt để cho mình hiểu được nhiều cái chương trình về của cái người Seniors Real Estate Specialist. Một lần nữa, Julie cảm ơn quý vị khán giả của Little Saigon TV đã luôn luôn theo dõi chương trình Kiến thức Khoa, gia đình và xã hội và ủng hộ cái công việc trong cộng đồng Việt Nam của mình. Julie cảm ơn quý vị khán giả và chúc quý vị khán giả rất nhiều sức khỏe và may mắn. Xin cảm ơn.